Hello again. Welcome back to Talking with Johnny. Um, Finally, the spring is here. It's starting to get a little warm, and summer will be closing in very rapidly, which is great. And the rumblings that are made behind some curtains say that this summer is going to be a very hot summer, something that all Americans will be keenly aware of this summer. So we'll see. And you can almost feel it in the air that there's something happening, and it's confusing and frightening to the public in general speaking. It's just we don't know what's really happening with our government, the world, the things that are happening around, and even Biden had a rough week. He said that one of the reasons for his low ratings is because the news media has been picking on him. He was on MSNBC, and he said when you turn on the television, all you heard was, for the past 3 years, is negative information about his administration and the like. So if the big guy in Washington's confused, I guess we have a right to be confused as well. But one of the reasons that we're confused is that if you don't know what's happening, if you walk into a room and you're startled, and you don't know, the lights go on and you're startled and the like, it's confusing and it's frightening. And we have a country that is confused and frightened, and have to scratch our heads and figure out not just why are we all so confused and frightened. Well, because we don't have a news media, let's face it. Tucker Carlson was the spotlight of truth, whether you liked him or not. He did tell the truth, and as such, he was booted off the air, even though he's so highly paid. But maybe it goes deeper than that. Maybe the news media is controlled, and let's see who could be that powerful and wealthy to control all the news. Well, it could be. Let me see here. Now, there's an agency called in the military, they'd call it Charlie Indian Alpha, which is CIA. Let's take a look back at the CIA. Is actually a little bit older than I am, not much, but it originally started the OSS, which was in the Second World War, Office of Strategic Services, and it was headed up by a guy by the name of Bill Donovan. While Bill Donovan was a very successful lawyer in New York City, and he was the commander of the 69th Regiment of New York City, the Fighting 69th. In fact, the movie was made about it, with Jimmy Cagney. And when the war started, Roosevelt realized that what we were up against with fighting the Nazis, and he wanted to have a counterbalance to the Gestapo. But he chose Bill Donovan to start the OSS, which later became the CIA. And one of the charter rules would be that no spying on Americans, period. If any spying was to be done, it would be handled domestically by the FBI. And that covenant was sacred. No CIA tampering at all within the borders of the United States. It's all right to go after other countries, find out what they're doing, spy like they did with the Gestapo and the like, and they did undercover work and the secret military operations and the like, and they did a wonderful job in the Second World War. And after the Second World War, they felt that the communist Soviet Union was going to be our next enemy. So the OSS and the CIA recruited Nazi Gestapo members that were very good at combating the communists. So we said, well, bring them on our side. Similar as we did with the space program. We brought Van Braun in to go to the moon and the like. So we brought some of these Gestapo people in, and they infiltrated in our CIA. And the most important thing is that the secret bond or charter was no spying on Americans, period. It was like in baseball, no gambling on baseball, period. If you're playing baseball, they'll throw you out of the thing for making a bet. If you're a fireman and you're off duty and you see a building on fire, you don't say, well, I'm off duty, I'm not going to do it. No, they go to the fire. If you're a priest, you cannot violate the confession. Nothing. So there's secret bonds that different professions have, and one is the CIA was forbidden to tinker with America, and that was a charter, and they were given unlimited money. The CIA was. In fact, what they spent and told Congress how much they spent was one thing, and then the most of the money, a great deal of it, which we never know, is unreported because it was for black funding, and no dollar amounts were ever mentioned. They could go out and do whatever they wanted. The CIA lifted a Russian submarine back in the 70s, and with Howard Hughes, and hundreds of millions of dollars spent. Not a word mentioned of it. So they have an unlimited amount of money to spend, and money corrupts. And after Vietnam and the Watergate, some people were concerned about the FBI going a little bit rogue, or that we were not being told what the CIA was doing. And Senator Church set up a committee in 1975, and a report was completed in 75, and he had mentioned, among other things, that the CIA had been doing and failing and the like. One of the things he had mentioned, brought to light, was that the CIA was funding American news sources, and that they had admitted to between 70 and 100 agents that or employees or people that worked for the CIA, or they gave them information or worked with. And it's in violation of their charter. And so they exposed that. Now, did it do any good? Well, a couple years later, Carl Bernstein of Watergate fame reported that in Rolling Stone magazine that the CIA had over 400 journalists and other media personnel that worked for the CIA. And so when we look at that, and you shake your head, and because it didn't, after the church, it didn't go down, it increased according to Bernstein. And it became the CIA. Were they happy even with that? No. In as recent as in 2017, at Christmas, 23rd of December, President Obama signed the Intelligence Authorization Act of 2017, and that was even for more funding, this time for the government to crack down with impunity against any media outlet that deemed was guilty of propaganda. and that is any media, including internet, broadcasting, or whatever. And to sweeten the pot, they were increased substantial amounts of money to fund this counter propaganda to make sure the government's stories get prominence. And there's no question about that. Kind of in a layman's term, that act allowed the government to crack down on any media outlet it deemed propaganda. And it would provide substantial amounts of government money, which means a lot of money, to counter propaganda, to make sure the government's approved stories are front page, control the news media. So you have the government, our government, spending all this money to control the news. And propaganda, like the Russians learned, or I should say the Soviet Union learned, it didn't work very well. In fact, the people got to know the truth has a way of working out. The truth is a strong source, and it has it breaks through the cracks of the concrete of lies and deceit. And we can see it, probably the greatest example is there again, Tucker Carlson. And I happened to see him on a video not too long ago, and he had mentioned that he was a happy-go-lucky guy. Here he is, dawned on him one time in life that he could start by telling the truth. And so he did. He said he gave up boozing and drugs or whatever. Maybe he did. But he dedicated his life, it seems, to finding the truth. Now, was Tucker perfect? Absolutely not. Am I perfect? I think so. But there's those who would disagree with that. But in this interview, Tucker pointed out that he shared a little bit of his life, where he came from, his humble beginnings. He didn't fit in. In fact, Tucker tried college, couldn't even finish college, and got a job in journalism. His father didn't finish high school, and he was for successful journalism. So he was just a wonder to listen to and talk to, or not talk to. I've never talked to him, but to listen to. But at any rate, he mentioned about a few years back, he had came up with the idea. He was toying with the idea of. He said, told someone. He said, "Hey, it'd be a cool idea if I could sit down with Putin." I met with other sources of newsmakers and the like, and maybe go to Russia. Never been to Russia, so it'd be kind of cool. And but he said he didn't put anything in writing, didn't text anybody, didn't email anybody, and certainly didn't broadcast it. And then he got a phone call from a friend of his, a very powerful Washington person, and he said, "I want to come right up. I want to talk to you." So he jumped on a plane, went over and visit with the guy, and whoever it was said, "Hey, look at, word is out. We're concerned about it." I'm just paraphrasing, but just kind of said was that, and Tucker said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Well, the we got information that you are an agent for Putin." And he said, "An agent for Putin? Well, what's that about? Didn't you want to meet with Putin?" And he said, "Well, yeah, but I'm not an agent, but just if I can interview a criminal in the jail, doesn't mean I want to be a criminal." And he was shocked. He said, "Well, where did you hear that from?" And apparently it came from the CIA. And they informed Tucker that they got all the information they wanted. And they wanted him to be, let it be known that if he crossed them, they would expose him as a Russian agent. And So he was shocked and startled. I can't believe it. Here I'm just a little news guy, and they um, are singling me out. It's hard to believe. And then later on, Tucker talks a story. He said he was a friend of his, or not a friend of his, but when he was in Washington, he met with a congressman who was head of the security, and he brought this up to him. He said, how would they find out about it? And he says, and this bureaucrat or congressman said, we can't. We're being monitored. He said, all my texts, all my emails, everything is being monitored. And he said, well, you're the head of this agency. Why can't you do anything? And he said, they have everything on everybody. Every congressman is human. Every senator is human. They have their little picadillos, whether it's squeezing the Charmin too hard at the grocery store, or if they pick, they sample the grapes at the store, or anything else that they do that is unknown to anyone else. They know it, and they will use it against them. And the information that they have on everybody would be career ending, and perhaps even more. And that is the depth of the spying that's going on in our country now. And we have to become aware of this, if nothing else. I mean, putting myself even at risk of speaking the way I do. And there again, for us Americans, and we're going to be learning more and more about this stuff, but we have to find out what our government's doing. We have no idea. Billions of dollars are spent on foreign governments that don't even like us. And we're forced to live under laws that we don't understand, agree with, comprehend, or scratch our head and say, how do these things come about? Well, we best have to take notice of what is happening around us. And even as importantly about what's happening in Washington is important what's happening in our local governments, our city councils, our county commissioners, our judges, and the like. They are, we're the roots, and those roots suck up into that giant plant in Washington that knows no compassion or truthfulness, it seems, at this time. But it's coming back. And one of the things that as an example of coming back is, has anybody ever heard of Tara Lee Rodas, Rodas? Well, I didn't know of her either, so up until last week, when I happened to catch her testifying in Congress under oath. She's a federal inspector for the Health and Human Services. She testified in Congress about how she went to work in the migration of the children at the borders and the like. And she reported into the Office of Refugee Resettlement. And she did some type of audit and the like. And she came out and found out that over 85,000 migrant children that were under the care or responsibility of that agency are missing. 85,000. Go to watch a college football game, Penn State or Texas or Oklahoma, and you have 80, 90,000 in the stadium. Now, Michigan, yes, they have 100,000 in their stadium. But 85,000 students. And you think of these 85,000, and this is just with this one government agency. How many more thousands are unaccountable? And as a government agent, I mean, she's a federal inspector, and she testified to the Congress that these children are being trafficked through a sophisticated network that starts in the home country, then smuggled to the U.S. border, that end up at the Office of Refugee Settlement. And then they're shipped, in many cases, to criminal sponsors. She was horrified. She said the U.S. government, our government, has become the middleman in a large-scale, multi-billion-dollar child trafficking operation. To bad actors seeking to profit off the lives of children. These children are extorted, exploited, I should say, abused, neglected, and trafficked into who knows what or where, and for what purpose. They found them in meatpacking places and other horrible working conditions, slave labor, sex crimes, trafficking their small children, perhaps even to even worse situations. We often hear about slavery in our own country, and America did have a reputation of fighting slavery. We fought a civil war, the only country that fought a civil war to eliminate slavery. And presently, our government is allowing worse crimes that are even more evil than the slavery. These crimes are on the most innocent children. And we have to become responsible more and more, eyes open. And our government is allowing these crimes to just prosper. Most of us go through life, especially in the last 30 years or so, being concerned about offending someone. And we were more concerned about offending someone for any reason that we have a tendency to ignore the people that need defending. We're more concerned about offending than we are defending. And if these accusations are true, and they are apparently, it's truly happening. And it's the shameful times that we live in, and our government is allowing this to happen. And we often, and rightfully so, ask God to bless America. Perhaps we might start asking God to have mercy on America. And what we have to do, I believe, is find out what we can do. And the first thing we can do is be alert. Find out what the truth is. Stop dancing around the truth and acknowledge it. If those horrible crimes are happening on the border, someone should be held accountable. And start with a whisper and then a yell. The floods are started, many great floods are started, not because a dam broke, it's because of raindrops. These raindrops became a puddle and then a stream and then a river. And we have to become one of those raindrops and start flowing. And it's apparent now that with Tucker gone, that the only way, if you really want to find the truth, is on the internet. And I know it's difficult for some my age, 46 or 39, as Jack Benny used to say. But it's apparent that it's difficult to get on the internet to figure out and find out what the truth is. But we all learned how to drive a car, and it was difficult. And we learned other things in life that were difficult. And the internet is the way that we find out what the truth is happening. And it's not simple. You have to find out the right way. As an example, when people first say, "Oh, well, you can't believe anything you have on the internet," blah, blah, blah. I said, "Well, I had a broken washer, and I called the manufacturer and said, how do I fix this?" And they sent me the parts, two different companies, almost $100. And then I couldn't figure it out. So I went on the internet to YouTube and found out that how to fix this thing. And Jimmy Bob with big overalls comes on and says, "Your dishwasher's broke. Here's what I found out works." And he showed me. I went to two other sites and they showed it. So the truth is there. You have to find out what the truth is. And because of the neat part about the internet is we can find out what the truth is, and the truth is documents. What Trump is doing and other people are doing, the military is doing, is they are following orders, and we can find these documents. And we're living in one of the most fantastic times in recorded history. Perhaps since the time when Christ walked the earth, this is the most fascinating times of mankind, because we are witnessing a change in the world. Whether we like it or not, it's changing. And if we win, and we will, life is going to be great again. Not again, it's going to be better, because we're going to be freer, more knowledgeable. And it's, I believe, not too far off, but and there's no saying the truth. And I don't saying it, I think the Bible's scripture says the truth shall set you free. And free people are comfortable with themselves, they're comfortable with nature. And knowing the truth, that's what sets us free. And remember, we are winning. Truth is our power. And it gives us our freedom. And the more truth and power we have, the less power and control government has over us. And we want to be free. And we can be free. And the more we know, the better off we are. Thank you.